Hey guys, it's Josh from Dirty Rooster Offroad. We got ourselves a Gibson exhaust. It's the dual stainless. I opted for stainless over the black ceramic. Both look great, but I prefer the stainless. So a little bit of backstory here. I've been doing tons of research on all the exhaust systems. I was looking for something that sounded cool, obviously, something that looks good, and something that had spark arresters. We do a lot of riding on state trails, so we wanted to make sure that we were forestry approved. So, like I'm saying, you got spark arresters on both sides. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, we tried. But also, Gibson mufflers, they don't utilize a typical packing or baffling system. So these are actually stainless steel fins that they've welded in here. So with all the shock that you're constantly putting these things under when you're out riding, sometimes that shakes the baffles and the packing loose. Also, it'll burn up. So this is a fail-proof exhaust per the packing. So we're pretty excited about that. They send you this plate to cover the exhaust, just like your stock plate, but a lot less ugly. You got 4-inch tips. Obviously it is the dual system, so there's 2 of those, and then all the necessary hardware and some instructions. And I would like to thank the people at Gibson for hooking us up on a great price on this thing. Super excited, and with all my extensive research, this is the one that we decided that we wanted. So super excited to put it on, see how she sounds. All right guys, so we're gonna go ahead and get ready to install this thing. I went ahead and kind of tried to familiarize myself with the instructions and grab the tools I think I'm gonna need for the job. Should also add, this is a made in America product. America. Also, they offer a limited lifetime warranty, so that's always good. Saying if there's anything defective, anything breaks, they'll replace it. So that's a good deal. So first thing I got to do is get the bumper out of the way. So there's that.
The rest should be pretty easy. Yeah. That thing is normally a little bit of a pain in the tail. What you don't notice is getting it off is pretty easy. Getting it back on, different.
Yeah, and the mistake I did make the one time was I spun these things completely off, in which case the back side that actually pinches that in this tubing here falls off. So then you got to dig around with a magnet. Not fun. So, go to my handy instructions sheet here. And these instructions are pretty well written. Should be pretty easy for anybody to follow. So, first thing I got to do is disconnect the negative battery terminal. Because that makes it so that the ECU is ready to accept the new exhaust. And I should also add that Gibson is one of the very few that have tuned their exhaust in such a way that they say you don't need a fuel programmer, that's a big plus. Saves you a lot of money. So if you've ever checked your battery before, you know where it is, but for us that haven't, just pull your
For
seat
us
out.
that haven't.
We've done it. For people that have
For
not.
those of you that haven't,
Yes,
yeah.
correct. You just pull your seat out, which there's a little lever in the back here. And there's the battery.
Bringo.
Found it. Oh. Alright, so we got that disconnected. So, next step is going to be to go ahead and remove this big ugly piece of plastic here. So that is going to be a T40 Torx. Take these bolts off and these ones. So 4 bolts total. Alright.
That is one handsome exhaust.
It's got a nice rainbow going on.
Yep.
That big ugly.
That is a big ugly junk. That'll be nice to get rid of. Got this nice Gibson fascia that's going to go back on there. What do they call that?
The beauty plate.
The beauty plate.
Yep. Alright. So it says we'll be reusing this hardware to mount the beauty plate. So I'm going to keep that handy. Alright, so now it's telling me to go ahead and disconnect the 2 factory springs and unbolt the factory exhaust. Do not damage the factory exhaust gasket. I'm going to reuse that too, so be careful.
Do not damage.
Don't do it. So I think what I'm going to do first is go ahead and get this O2 sensor out of the way. I think that's the easiest I've ever had an O2 sensor come out.
A little different than the Beamer.
Yeah, that was a nightmare.
Wow, that was
Pretty simple.
very easy.
Okay. So now,
Is there a torque setting for that?
the O2 sensor?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a look at that.
Look at the manual.
Yeah, I didn't really notice anything. That was a 7/8 wrench. I forgot to tell you guys that. So I'm going to go ahead and take off these 2 bolts. Which is a 9/16.
It's behind you.
Dandy ratchet. There it is.
So I wonder how much compression is behind that spring, if it's going to come flying off and smack you in the teeth.
I'm about to take a look here. See what that is back there. I believe these are captured.
Oh, well, I guess we're going to find out one way or another, aren't we?
Yeah.
Nah, there's no pressure on it. At least not much anymore.
So there's one. There we got 2. So that's going to stay in there for now. Looks like I got to take all these springs off here. Handy dandy pliers.
You know, they do make a tool for pulling springs.
Do they?
They do. And we might have one.
Do we have one?
We might have one.
Okay.
We didn't have one, but this is what you want. All right, so we got a handy little hook there.
Yeah.
Not really what it's for, but we think it's gonna do the trick. Oh, imagine that.
Look at that.
Money.
Cool. All right, so there's 2. Probably one. Yeah, none on that side. All right, so looks like it's just in there with these 2 little rods
Nubbins.
there. It should. There we go. So that's the stock exhaust. It looks like the gasket was left on the other side.
Do not damage.
That is the gasket. All right, so back to the instructions. Once you have removed the heat shield, remove the factory brackets.
Yeah, those.
Yeah. And reinstall the Gibson supply brackets.
Yes.
Factory bolts and factory location. Keep loose until final install. All right, so
Look at our swamp dirt.
Swamp dirt. Alright.
Ouch.
So oddly enough, these two are 10 millimeter. It may be a standard size if you have smaller graduations, but in the set that we have, 10 millimeter is the one that fit. Alright. So it says to install the Gibson ones. E. So that would be E. Bad boys here.
Yup. Man, finally warm in PA.
Yeah.
Feels nice.
So it makes sense to me that they would go this way. Makes sense to you?
Makes sense to me, but we probably should have just paid attention to how the other ones came off, because it would be the same, most likely. But I think that you are correct. That is structurally the way it should go.
Leave that loose like they told me to. A little bit of dirt. Alright. Next, use a 1/4 inch drill bit to drill a hole for the tailpipe brackets. You will drill the lower threaded hole on both the driver and passenger side. See above photo.
No, I see. It's for these.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have to, it's gonna be on the side somewhere, right? Because it's for those brackets that you do not have on the stock exhaust.
Correct. Which I understand, but the picture here is a little interesting.
So if you put this on and quasi line it up,
Yeah.
that'll show you about where they want to do that. Aha!
That would be where it is.
I see. Yep, that's where it goes. So that makes a whole lot of sense now.
Yeah.
And now that graphic makes a whole lot of sense, right?
Yep. A little bit of confusion, but we got her. So I got my 1/4 inch drill.
So do you know exactly where to drill these holes now?
I do. I will show you once we. So this right here, we got to take out, and it's going to mount to this hole and in this hole.
And the drill bit is because once we remove this bolt, we have to drill the threads out. Which means if you ever take the exhaust off, you're gonna have to put another piece of hardware in there with a nut and a washer. Another point to make here is that you should actually drill this out. Do not use the factory hardware, because the new hardware they give you is stronger. That exhaust is pretty heavy and you're going to be bouncing around, so you're going to want heavier hardware in there.
Alright, so let's go ahead and get into a position to drill this thing out. It'd be easier if we just move that thing out of the way. But that's going to need drilled also for clearing. It's not going to drill well anyway. Let's just get it through here. Alright. There's the first one. So that hole is already big enough. Luckily. And I'm gonna need a little bit of push here. All right. Now it says install the Gibson muffler assembly. Install the top hanger mounts first, then slide the inlet over the factory head pipe. We're using the factory gasket and bolts. Once in position, install head pipe and top muffler springs. All right.
So,
Yeah.
the brackets on the back do not line up just right, but I think that probably we'll have to be doing a little bit of bending to get that to line up. Well, let's see. Yeah, I think our the grommets are going to line up fine on the hangers,
Yeah.
but we'll have to bend those.
Front.
Did you?
Yeah.
Here, let me try to help you.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a little bit of pliers here.
Well, if we bend the whole bracket out,
So let's go ahead and get this thing off.
all right, so we had to take a little bit of a break and bend these brackets out just slightly so that we could get them on the outside of the brackets that we just drilled up. You can see there. So now we're back at getting everything fastened up.
All right, so I've got to go ahead and get this spring back mounted on here.
Your sprang.
Yeah, but it's a little tight here now.
That is a little tight, isn't it?
It is.
This is where
So
having
very
the correct exhaust spring puller would come in really handy. We got one after this job was complete. I thought I had one, but we didn't find it the day of the install.
I might have something else.
Man, I'm so close. All right.
Did you get it?
Yeah, now if I can just get the tick back out.
So note to self, get a spring puller.
Yep. All right. So now it's telling me to go ahead and mount these two bolts. Before I mount these,
Makes sense.
so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So the two bolts you took off the header pipe before with the spring, go ahead and reinstall those.
Yep, that's about the way it was for the stock exhaust.
And we're all good and tight there. So back to this. It says bolt the tailpipe brackets to the rear underbed bracket. You will use bolt kit B, which is right here. Got them labeled.
Some big washers.
Yep. It says use the large fender washers she was just talking about up here.
Yep.
Because obviously that hole's huge.
Huge.
In the back of the top hole, you may have to loosen the factory bracket to adjust for fitment. Do not tighten until all bolts are installed.
That's right.
So, go ahead and crack this open. And that
is gonna suck.
It is impossible to get to. Yeah, so
Maybe if I hold it, get my
Yeah,
hand
you
back in
might
there.
have to.
Here, give me the nut.
It's like
Oh,
captured.
I see. Whoops. I just want to feel this out for a second. Oh, shite. How's that even gonna work? Pause.
All right, so we did a little bit of poking around trying to figure out what the best way to get in there was. What I did was I ended up coming in from the top side and just held the nut square on the bolt and used my 7/16 wrench on the other side here to get it started. This one was pretty easy. So they're saying to leave everything loose until I've got both sides mounted and we're ready to go. So go over here to the other side.
Should we drop this? Do we need this anymore?
I don't believe so.
Get it out of the way.
Take my hardware with me.
Is there only one spring on this muffler?
Yeah, so they're using the two rubber mounts here, and then this single spring up top. I don't see, there used to be a spring right here.
Yep.
I went ahead and removed that one, so they're not utilizing that spring anymore. All right, so now this side, we've got to contend with the fact that our clamp here for our intake pipe
For the CVT.
CVT, yep, air pipe, is in the way.
So I'd assume the hardware's got to be a little bit longer, but is it all the same size?
I believe it is all the same size.
Well, hopefully there's enough margin on the other side.
Get this bracket bent back first. That is lined up. It's pulling it a little bit out of our mount there, slightly.
So what you're going to do is you're going to mount what?
This in behind the
Okay.
exhaust hanger, because this has a
Oh, yeah.
lip on it to come
Right.
up against the other bracket.
Yep, I see that lip.
All right, so good and tight.
Just got to remove the plug out of the bung there for the O2 sensor.
are gonna have to check if there's any torque specs, but I'm just gonna go snug for now. And we got these tight, this tight over here. So, all right, so not tight yet. Gotta get it nice and level.
Here, Daddy. Here, Daddy.
And then we gotta tighten the bolts that we never tightened before back in here.
Yeah, back where the bracket's attached to the frame.
Yep.
That actually looks pretty good. Oh, tip time.
Tip time. So here's our 4-inch tips, and they just send you a little bit of hardware to clamp them on. And basically in the instructions they say, make them look how you want, clamp them tight, and that's all there is to it. And they do say to check for around 1 inch of clearance here. Obviously you don't want to be melting your bumper there. I think what I'm going to do is just take it right to about a little bit in front of this rivet here for the spark arrestor and clamp it down. Gives it a good hold. Nice and tight. Those are some huge tips.
Those are huge tips.
So I did notice this before. Got a little bit of a...
It's out around.
Yeah.
Something must have happened in shipping.
That's why.
You might need to use something different.
Here, open this side. Open. Here, open. This has nothing in it. This has nothing. This has nothing.
Look pretty straight.
Looks pretty good. So we figured something out. The biggest problem that we had with the exhaust is right here in lime squeeze. The beauty plate does not fit with the rear bumper, and the rear bumper is kind of a must. So we are going to cut said beauty plate. We were thinking we'd get fancy and cut some radii into the edges of this thing, but No reason to get that fancy, I don't believe, so we're just gonna cut the corners off. We'll see how it goes. All right, so here's what we had to do.
Beauty plate. I just took 2 inches from each corner and cut a 45 on here, smoothed it out with a grinder and some Scotch-Brite pads, and we're going to try and see if it fits now.
Cool, so check it out. After a lot of messing around with this, we've got all the right angles cut into this Gibson beauty plate so that it'll fit with our stock bumper. Yeah, so the hardware gets a little challenging now. But overall, I think it came out looking pretty nice. We don't have any matte black paint to paint these edges yet, but we'll have to get that another time. Money. Now the question is, does she rattle? But damn it, it looks nice. Looks really nice. Well done, well done. Dirty Rooster approved. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Hit the like and the subscribe buttons at the bottom so that you can see what's coming up next. We'll be working on new content as often as we can. Of course, leave comments below so that we can see what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see, and we'll keep it coming. Thanks again.